beautifully quiet in my house at the moment. I thought I'd jump on before people started coming at me from all directions as they usually do. Just going to check that my volume is okay. Here we go. Wait a minute. Let's see, make sure everything's working. Sometimes it isn't. Just while some people jump on, nice to see some people already on. Good morning. Hope the weather is nice where you are. It's very dark and quite gloomy here in southern Tasmania today. It's going to rain most of the weekend, I think, unless the Bureau have changed the forecast. Here we go. Okay, that sounds like it's okay. Any trouble with the sound or the colour or anything, please just yell out in the comments and let me know. I don't like making changes on the run, but I can always have a look at it for next time. Okay, although the colour looks pretty good from what I'm seeing here. As I say, it is quite a dark day, and I've moved my craft room to, unfortunately, the darkest part of the house at this time of the morning, which is when I always do my lives. Okay, we're going to focus on this brand new stamp set from the new catalogue, let's say the current catalogue, but the very new catalogue, called Vintage Tools. Thought I needed a bit of a break from flowers. I do love flowers, as you guys know. I'd be in the wrong business if I didn't. But yes, I thought we'd move away from flowers and do something for our the men in our life, or the craft people in our life. It doesn't necessarily have to be men. Mostly, I suppose, because my dad's on my mind at the moment. So this one seemed to be the logical set to look at today. It's really, really nice set. It's got some really nice, strong, sort of blocky sentiments there. Strong, solid, dependable. You're all that and more. You're plain awesome. I thought that made me giggle, but then I suppose it's a dad joke, isn't it? So it's a dad set with a dad joke on there. So anyway, it's your day, and build in some time for yourself, which I suppose would be fine for birthdays or Father's Days or anything like that. And some of these tools are, so they've got that sort of vintage look to them. I asked my husband what this one in the middle would be called, and he looked at it and he went, "It's just an old-fashioned screwdriver. It's nothing special." And I said, "But what about that bulby end there?" And he said, "Yeah, probably just some special handle." But anyway, so he got it right exactly. They are vintage tools, or at least that's what they're supposed to be, with our plane and our hammer and our chisel and things. So anyway, so I've got a couple of cards to show you. The first one is a fairly simple card, but I wanted to show you all the stamps in their glory. So I've popped together this little sort of stamped DSP, homemade DSP background one to show you. And the second one is more around some designer series paper that's also available in the current catalogue, in that sort of masculine what's the word, vein, I suppose is what you'd call it. Anyway, so let's get started with our first card, and then we can get on with our second one. I've got a card base here. I've made it as a sort of a landscape sideways folding card, only because that's the scrap of black that I had. So I just wanted to use it. So yeah, so this one obviously normally they'd fold up and down like that, but this one's going to go sideways. Actually, I think sometimes folding them sideways makes them sit easier on the when they're on display anyway. I sometimes find it difficult to, the ones that are like this, to get them to sit up on sort of smooth surfaces and stuff. They tend to just go and fall flat sort of thing. So sometimes if you want to go landscape, then this is the way to go. Anyway, so here we go. So this is basic black. It's going to make a 5.5 by 4 1/8 card. So whichever way you cut your cardstock, that's the size you're aiming at. Then I have a layer of basic white, and that's 1/8 of an inch smaller. So basically that would be 4 inches by 5 3/8. Yep. And then a layer of, now this is actually smoky slate in the greys, and that's 3/8 of an inch smaller than the basic white. thinking actually probably half an inch would be better, just to get a bit more of that white border around the edge, but that's 3/8 of an inch. Don't worry too much about the measurements. I'll pop them all up on my website and put the link into the video once I'm finished. And then we've got another layer of basic white, and that's cut to pretty much match the smoky slate. And this is the one we're going to be doing our stamping on. So I'll just put those others away and we can get started. So since we're using smoky slate, this one here actually I've realised I've swapped greys. This is actually grey granite, but I don't think it's going to make too much difference. And I did have some scraps of smoky slate to use, so I decided to use those. But sticking to smoky slate, what we're basically going to do is just grab our various tools and things, and we're just going to randomly, as much as I can do random, stamp them all over our little piece of basic white. Just checking that my stamp pad wasn't too dry. We may have had to swap back to grey granite, which I know I recently re-inked. So I'm just going to pop these. This is sort of the biggest. I usually start with the biggest image and then sort of build the smaller ones in around it. And this one is the biggest image that I'm actually using. So again, be careful you're not stamping on the best dining room table, because you are going to get, going off the edge there, you're going to get some ink on it. So make sure you have your grid paper or a scrap underneath, so you don't cause yourself traumas with the best dining room table, as I said. Okay, so that's all I'm going to put there with the hammers. We'll bring in the next size down is this sort of clamp thing. Very technical, aren't I? I did ask Stephen the names of all the tools, but he wasn't overly helpful. We're just going to pop that. This card's going to be different to the first one. That's the thing when you're stamping, I suppose, or sort of randomly, they can be different every time. Okay, probably enough of that one. And I'll bring in that little mystery screwdriver there that I thought would have a proper name, but it doesn't. So we'll pop it around a few places. It's a nice little size, this one. You can fit it in. Actually, I've probably gone wrong. I'm going to go the, what are these things? That'd be a set of pliers, wouldn't it? I'm going to do the pliers next. Going down in size. Want to get at least a couple of those in. Yeah. Yeah, so that's probably enough of the pliers. Now we'll bring that little screwdriver back in. As I say, it's a nice little size, this one. You can sort of fit it in and take up some room with it. I think that's probably it. And the last thing I was going to bring in were these little sort of little nails, little tacks. And I can pop those in some gaps as well. Okay, I think that's probably enough. Yep. I wonder if I can fit some more of this in. I'm going to overdo it, which is my problem. It's a D clamp. Thank you, Glenda. I'm sure it is a D. It looks very much like a D, doesn't it? Okay, so that's our sort of randomly stamped images. As you can see, it's yeah, they are sort of really they've got all the texture in there you need. You could bring in some, I don't know, I think probably pencils or something and give them a tinge of colour. I don't know how you'd go giving them blocky colour like some previous stamp sets I've seen where you actually colour them in the outlines. They do have the wood grain and everything already in there to give them that vintage look. So yeah, I don't know. I think probably I'll have a little play with my watercolour pencils later and see if I can add some colour, but I don't think it actually needs it, especially for this card, which has got the greys happening. Okay, cool. So that's our stamping done. What I'm going to do is layer up the card now, and I'm going to bring in, as long as I haven't lost it, some linen twine as well, just to add a little bit of something to the design. I'll grab some glue. So I'm just going to glue the first 2 layers together and then bring the twine in around these 2 layers. So this is the stamped panel onto the smoky slate. Let's just call it general grey. Then I'm going to bring in my double-sided tape and pop that on the back just to capture our twine while I curl it round. So I hope everyone's well, staying safe. Heading into whatever season you're heading into at the moment. We're obviously heading into winter, but I suppose in the Northern Hemisphere you're looking for a long awaited summer. Hopefully it's going to be a good one for everyone, whatever it is. Not overly happy with 2022 so far as it goes. But anyway, I've got to take the good with the bad and make the most of it. Okay, so I'm going to wind this twine around twice. 1, 2, and I'm going to tie it in a knot. No bows, but a knot. I'm going to put the knot over to the right hand side. I might actually pop that on there now because I know it's going to stick to the grid paper if I pop it down on the grid paper, but I'll stick it to the layer that it's going to be stuck to in the finished article, and then it won't move on me. Okay, so I'm just going to tie this in a knot. And when I did the knot on my first one, I thought to myself it looked a bit sad and lonely just with the one knot. So I actually brought in, just let me get this one tied first before all fingers and thumbs. Yes, it looked a bit sad and lonely just with the one knot. So I'm going to trim that off. I'm actually just going to bring in another short piece of linen thread, and I'm just going to tie it again, just exactly over the same spot, but just to give us those extra bits of extra sort of ends that you want. I was thinking overnight I probably could have actually tied it in a bow and then just snipped the sort of the loops of the bow to make them, but I didn't know how well it would actually stay where I wanted it. So yeah, so I've just got the double loop of the twine and then I've just tied it twice just to give it a bit more, just to make it look a bit healthier as far as knots go. Okay, right. So last bit for this card anyway is I'll pop it onto its card base. Again, just with some glue if I haven't thrown it away. And then we'll do the sentiment and the bling. Well, it's not really bling. I'm actually using the matte black dots, which I think go really, really well with the black background, the black card base. There is our card base. There we are. I really like the way the black sort of highlights that, brings it all out. Okay, so what I've got here to put my sentiment on, you can see I've done this one here very similar with a stitched square sitting behind, and then sort of a bannered sentiment box there. And they are from the Stylish Shapes die set, which I've used a lot already, and will probably use a lot for the rest of the year as well. So from the new catalogue, very, very handy little stitched shapes there. What I'm going to do is bring in my sentiment. I'm going to use a different sentiment on this one. I'm going to use It's Your Day. So hence I've used a different, a longer banner. Everything's gone a bit skew whiff there, just in black ink. And as I say, it's a lovely font. It's sort of really, yeah, it's like an old worldy font. So It's Your Day. Oh, no, that's all right. That was a bit low. Looks to me like the sticker. Yeah, I'll put it on right. The sticker's a little bit higher than the actual letters, so I'll have to keep that in mind when I use it in the future. So It's Your Day. I'm going to pop the square of smoky slate just straight onto the card and slip it underneath the twine. I have to bring it over a wee bit because I've got a longer banner this time. Oh no, that's okay. So just popping that under there. And then I'm going to grab some dimensionals. It's going to have to be big ones this time because I've got a big grab some dimensionals, pop them on the back of that banner. And then pop them over our square. So I really like layering these sentiment boxes like that. It sort of really brings us a nice little focal point for our sentiment there. It's Your Day. There we are. Okay, and as I say, some nice matte black dots, which just seem perfect for this design. And we'll pop some of these around as well. Okay, so there we are. There's our very simple, I think you can agree to that, very simple masculine card for say a birthday or a Father's Day or something like that. So we'll just compare that to the first one, and you can see that sentiment actually makes quite a difference there as well. Okay, so that's card number one, and as I say, fairly simple card because I just wanted to show you all those really cool images there, and what you can do with them with just some ink. Anyway, if everyone liked that one, I'll get on to the next card. Okay, so this one I designed in honour of, she's on, yes, the DSP Queen who's watching, Jan, loves her DSP. Well, if she does or not, it doesn't matter because I've decided that she does. And I have, oh, I've already finished that one. I have used some designer series paper. Now, this is from the He's the Man suite. Paper pack, and they are sort of really nice designs for masculine cards. I think I've actually used them in a previous video, so I won't bring them out. But anyway, so they've got the early espresso, sort of the crumb cake. This one's got, what would that be? Cajun craze, maybe. I will get it out and see. But anyway, the colours are really, really good. And the good thing about this one is that it comes with and I think we've definitely looked at it before, comes with all these cutouts. So you can actually sort of make your cards without even getting a stamp set happening. Yeah, so yeah, and I have done a few cards where I've just added the sentiments and things straight to the designer series paper, which is great. But the colours in the paper are sort of basic black, Cajun craze, crushed curry, early espresso, Sahara sand, and soft succulent. So all those nice sort of earthy colours are in this one. So I've got 4 pieces of the designer series paper. I've just sort of picked the ones I like the most, and each piece is the same size. They are, as she says, not being able to remember what size they actually are, 1 3/4 by 2.5. So each piece of the designer series paper that I've chosen is 1 3/4 inches by 2.5. So I've just picked sort of 4 colours there that I like that have gone together. I've got a panel of, now this one is definitely grey granite card base, and again, because I had a scrap that went that way, we're doing it as a landscape card with a side fold. Then I've got a panel of early espresso, and that's got a 1/4 of an inch on that one, so that would be 3 7/8 by 5 1/4. So that's going to go straight on there, and we can do that now. So I haven't actually made a prototype of this card. I just sort of popped it together and thought, yeah, that looks okay. Let's go with that. So there we've got our early espresso on our grey granite. Then what I'm going to do is bring in my little pieces of paper, and I'm just going to put them onto that card base, just like that. And there should be the way I've measured it, there should be a small border between each piece of paper and the edge of the early espresso. As I say, I will put the measurements on the website, but we're just going to form a little grid with this really nice designer series paper. Don't know whether I'm going to do it this next month or the month after, but I am actually going to do a product class with this designer series pack. So as I say, you can create cards without any particular stamp set, which is great. So I will put together a card class where I actually just feature the paper, and then you can just use the cutouts to do the decorating with, and then we can all make the same cards without necessarily having the same stamp sets, which is great. I love packs that do that. So watch out for that. I'm going to do it in time for our Australian Father's Day anyway, so it'll either be the July class or the August class. No, yeah, oh well, whatever, before Father's Day anyway. Okay, so that's that. I really like those 4 together. I hope you agree. It's they're just really, really nice. They're different enough, but similar to set each other off. Okay, very, very simple now. I have, and because I've already, will I cut a new one? I will cut a new one. I've got a stitched rectangle there. I got a bit ahead of myself and actually practically finished the card, but I'll get another one and I'll stamp it for you to show what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got a stitched rectangle there, and it's out of the stitched rectangles, obviously. It's the second from smallest of the standard sized rectangles. I might grab out my mini cut. Oh, just nearly knocked my coffee over. Grab my mini cut and emboss machine and a scrap of white. Is this one going to be big enough? Just big enough, that little scrap. Near enough's big enough. I got on just in time. I can hear people in the hallway finally out of bed. Somebody stayed up till the wee hours of the morning watching goodness knows what on telly last night. Somebody who will remain nameless. Oh, no, that scrap's not big enough. I'll have to swap to a bigger piece if I've got any. No. Oh, there's a nice big bit. I don't have to worry now about it moving around. Through you go. Come on. I've got my plates lined up enough to go through. There we go. They're going now. Okay, so I've got a stitched rectangle. Took a lot of effort to get there in basic white. I have to wait for my camera to refocus probably. No, it looks okay. Okay, so we've got our stitched rectangle there, and I'm going to grab my early espresso ink here. Then I'm also going to grab this old-fashioned plain here, which I remember my dad having in his shed for years and years and years before they had all these electric automatic things that they have these days. And I'm going to just stamp that straight onto our little stitched rectangle just off to the right hand side. There we are. So as you can see, it fits pretty much perfectly in that rectangle. Then I'm going to grab the dad joke from the stamp set. You're plain awesome. And I'm just going to pop that also in early espresso, just on where that little gap is. Here we are. So I really like the way those two fit together there on that little stitched rectangle. Okay, then I have miraculously a piece of early espresso which fits around that stitched rectangle perfectly. I was just going to die cut the next size up stitched rectangle, but it made too much of a gap of the brown, so I needed to so I trimmed it down so you can only just see a tiny border of the brown. Next size up made it too much brown, you could see, and obviously you don't see a lot of it on the rest of the card, so I decided to trim that down. So I'm just going to pop that onto together. I might pop this on dimensionals. I haven't actually I hadn't made this card this far through yet, so I hadn't decided, but I think I will put it on dimensionals. Got some leftovers here. Can I say, Tammy, we have one too? Well, Tammy, of course you would. You'd have it like in a museum or something, wouldn't you? Does Brett use it, or does he just sort of sit and look at it? Or is he like Stephen? He keeps everything he's ever had and never throws anything out. Especially not a tool like that. I think the old ones are worth money now, the old vintage tools, like for collectors and stuff. Okay, so we've got that on some dimensionals. Pop that just in the middle of our little patchwork of DSP. Come over that way a wee bit. Here we are. So isn't that nice? I just love the clean lines of that. It looks like someone's had a patch shirt or something, and it's got the fabric of the patterns. Okay, so that one, and then I think I will bring in the black matte dots again, wherever I've put them, over here. Maybe you could get away with the iridescent gem or a white. Maybe. No, I think I like the idea of the black better. So I'll bring these in as well. There we are. Okay, I really like that one. I think I might keep that and use it for someone in my life who happens to be having a birthday tomorrow. Okay, so that's it for today. How did I go for time? 30 minutes. I love it when I come in around 30 minutes. So that's our 2 cards for today. We've got our sort of background stamped card there. We've got our DSP for the Queen of DSP there. And for both of them, we've used the Vintage Tools stamp set. So that's available to customers at the moment, if you like that. And, as I say, it seems to lend itself perfectly to some really nice masculine card ideas. So thanks for joining me. Have a great weekend or Friday, wherever you happen to be watching. Watch out for that next class. As I mentioned, I'm going to be doing the masculine, the He's the Boss designer series paper pack as the next, or as a class in the near future. Whether it's next month or the month after, I'll have to work that out. But anyway, thanks again. Last week to register for my launch if you're interested in popping along to that. So there's posts about that on my Facebook page. Next week I will be sending out the goodie bags. So anyone who's already registered, watch out for those arriving very soon. Okay, so thanks for joining me, guys. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all next time.